Ben, just saying we have the same person. It's gonna be awkward. We good?
So if you guys could please raise your hand if you ever played a sport in your life. Alright, so the vast majority of you guys have played organized sports throughout your life, just like me. The role my coaches have played in my life has helped shape me as a person as well as an athlete. Team sports have been a contributing factor to who I am as a person. Hello, my name is Graham Weisberg, and I'm here to tell you about what can make a great coach, as well as the amount of money that is put into coaching recently. Sorry, my bad. I've had plenty of coaches, and all of them different in their own way. Some were just the neighborhood parents that would help bring the little kids to the game and just kind of tell them where to go out on the field. Others were hired by clubs to come and teach us strategy, and of course to help the team win overall. I always just kind of listened to these coaches and never really cared for what they were doing or how they acted. But as I got older and more competitive, I started to notice the positives and negatives of these coaches. I also started to notice the amount of money that these men or women that were my coaches were getting paid to coach these teams. I see these coaches at my club who make large amounts of money for just being a coach for what I think is my small club team. But when you look at professional leagues, the MLB, NBA, Premier League soccer, which is in England, they make an even larger amount of money, which is just absurd. And it makes me wonder what makes them really worth all of that money. Coaches aren't just paid for how many wins they have or how skilled they are themselves at the sport. They're paid for their positive effect that they have on their players, the people around them. In an interview I did with Mark Furlan from the Bow Middle School soccer team, I asked him what the most important part of coaching was to him. He told me it wasn't the winning or having the most skilled team, but about creating a positive place for his kids to come after school. He told me that creating this place that kids wanted to be was by far the most important thing. At first I didn't understand. I thought to myself, wouldn't it just be, I don't know, shooting the ball or kicking or just getting better overall, your field sense? But I soon learned to understand what he meant. He meant that if these kids didn't want to be there, then they weren't going to want to get any better at what they were doing. But if they loved what they were doing and they wanted to be there, then it would drive them to become a better player. Another aspect of successful coaches and their positive effects on players is the relationship off the field, as shown by, unfortunately, one of the greatest coaches, Bill Belichick. I've never, ever been a fan of the New England Patriots. Absolutely hate them, New York Giants all the way. But it is hard to ignore the greatness of Bill Belichick. I recently read a book written by Ian O'Connor called Bill Belichick, The Making of the Greatest Football Coach of All Time. It gave me an insight into the mind of Bill that I couldn't find anywhere else. I saw many examples in the book of him not only being a coach with a great mind for the game, but also his fatherly instincts, as they called it, that he had with his players. On and off the field, he would guide his players through life and help them become better people. In public, he seems like this old and grumpy man, but then I hear stories of him pulling guys aside and asking them what is going on in their life, giving them the attention they need, not only as a person, but as a player. This is an important aspect that I found coaches need to become a great one. Even though the style of coaching and personal relationships are important in the success of athletes, the salaries of coaches makes a big impact as well. There's a lot of money that is going into coaching lately, and I found these statistics to be quite absurd. For example, currently there are college football playoff semifinals going on. These coaches that make it to the playoffs are obviously some of the greatest coaches in the US, so they should be bringing in a lot of money. But I didn't think this much. Currently up on the board, or up on the projector, are the 4 head coaches that are in the semifinals right now. It's actually the finals now, but they were in the semifinals. And it's compared to all 50 of our US governors. They make 4 times as much almost as all 50 of our governors. And I just thought that was an absurd statistic because these are our governors who make decisions for all of our states and everything. So I decided to do some research to understand why these coaches were being paid so much. And I found that these schools are paying these large amounts of money to bring these teams this far because they want the publicity. It's all about publicity to them. Yes, of course, winning a championship is great, but imagine all the students and exceptional athletes they are attracting when their team makes the playoffs. That is what I found the schools were really paying these coaches for. So for my project, I spent a lot of time working with different teams around the state. I started by helping out Mark Furlan of the Bow Middle School team, and I also worked with my own high school team. And then I moved over to my soccer club called Seacoast United. I have actually played 10 years of my own career at Seacoast United, and I was able to work with multiple head representatives of the club, and I was even an assistant to the assistant coach on one of the youth soccer teams. Don't get that mixed up, you know. So the club actually set up a charity tournament at their Epping facility, which is about 40 minutes away. And I was able to sit and work with some of their coaches in meetings. But unfortunately, the project had to be moved to a later date because of funding. So I was unable to talk about that in the presentation, but I still felt as though I wanted to do something to show you guys that bettered kids' lives. So I decided to host my own soccer practice at Fieldhouse Sports. And that was the poster that I put up in a bunch of different schools. Fieldhouse was actually really kind. They allowed me 1 hour on one of their fields completely for free. And I put up a flyer about my project in a few schools as well as the Fieldhouse. I decided to keep it out of our school because I didn't just want my friends coming and goofing around on the field or anything. So I decided to keep it into other schools, kind of 30 minutes away from here, so like Concord wouldn't tell anyone. And luckily I was contacted by the little kid soccer team from Simon School. Simon School is actually the old elementary school that I used to go to, and their principal recognized my name. And he sent about 23 kids over to come practice and participate in my practice. I was able to play games with the kids and talk to them about where they wanted to go in their soccer career. All of them told me they had a wonderful time. It was really just a great experience all together. And unfortunately, they kept talking about how they wanted to do it the next weekend with me, and I would have to let them know every time. It's a one-time thing, but it did get me to start thinking about what I want to do with my coaching career later on. So I've made recent efforts to become certified as a coach for the Seacoast Club on the youth teams. And I was waiting to hear back for my application, but I did hear back last night, and it actually got accepted. So starting the spring season, I'm going to be coaching a U9 team in the Epping facilities. So up above is a picture from Go Fieldhouse that I took when doing my practice. They didn't give me a shout out. It was a little unfortunate. I won't lie. I was kind of expecting like a tag in the photo or something, but it's whatever. But the kid's name above, his name is Zach. I'm not going to say his last name. But he was one of the most energetic kids I saw at the practice. And he just really loved the sport. And I won't lie, we did a foot race, and he may or may not have beaten me. It was a little embarrassing. I found out I'm not very fast. But he was by far one of the favorite kids to work with. Not saying any of them were bad. But I handed out surveys at the end of practice, and I got great feedback from all of them. I even got an email later from his parents, which was really cool. And they were telling me how they couldn't get him to stop kicking the soccer ball around the house. And that they'd never seen him any happier than he was after doing that practice. So I was just really proud to have this type of positive impact on a kid. And help to prove the positive impact that coaching can have on someone. But yeah, that's what I did for my project. I did want to give a couple thanks to Seacoast United, Peter Kradamos specifically. I sent letters to all these people except Ms. Mullins. I wanted to say thank you to Ms. Mullins. I figured I'd see you in school. But yeah, for just keeping me in line and stuff. Simon School was really nice because, I mean, they sent all those kids over. Without that, probably wouldn't have gotten a lot of kids. I got like 6 other kids who weren't from Simon School. But yeah, thank you. And does anyone have any questions? All right, sweet.